about it all, right?
Yeah. I wanted to start with I really appreciate you taking time. I mean, you're kind of a heavy hitter in the company now, so I I appreciate you having a little time for the riffraff.
Oh, anything. As soon as I saw your email, I was like, absolutely, we're making this happen.
You're the
So, for
man. You're the
sure.
man. First, tell us about where you grew up in your early years before we get into the professional side of things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always love sharing this story because people are like, "So where do you come from?" And yeah, it's a great story. I was born in a very small town in South America in a country called Venezuela. I lived there till I was 16 years old. So I did high school, everything there, and moved to the States when I was 16 to learn English. So the plan was that I was gonna come here, learn English for a year and then go back to Venezuela and then, finish school there, college, because I already had like I was already accepted into college and everything, the whole thing. But when I came here for English, I was also a swimmer. So I was a swimmer back in Venezuela, and I really wanted to keep that going because I was like, one of these days I'm gonna make it to the Olympics. That was always a dream, right? When you're little and
Of
you're in
course,
sports.
something.
So exactly. So I was like, we're gonna learn English, but keep swimming too. And it was a blessing because through swimming, I piqued the interest of the coaches at the university, and then they really worked with me with like scholarships and things like that, so that I could then stay and do like my 4-year program here rather than going back. So that was, an unexpected turn.
You
And
said you
I
said
popped.
university, but you didn't mention the university.
Oh, Cleveland State. Yes.
Come on, you
Cleveland
got to
State
give some love.
University. That's right. Yes. Go Vikings. So yeah, it was very unexpected. Talked to my parents. They were like, absolutely. They didn't think twice. So I had their support, their blessing, and yeah,
You know,
I made it and stayed.
being a college athlete, I always admired other athletes that could do things I could never do. And the wrestlers and swimmers, like the hours that you have to put in and the times that you have to work out just seem crazy
No.
to me.
I know. Then it was exciting, right? Because again, I had that goal in mind. I was, we're gonna make it to the Olympics, whatever it takes, train every day. Now I'm looking back, I was like, how on earth did I do that? How did I wake up at 4 in the morning and freezing snow in Cleveland
Oh,
to,
yes.
make it a practice? But it
That's what I'm
wasn't, I didn't
saying. At,
think about it then.
at least you have one of those long parkers that you
I
swimmers
did.
wear?
Oh yeah, I will cover up my hat, the whole thing, and just beeline for the pool. So yes, for sure. But still,
Yeah,
it was freezing cold.
yeah, swimmers and wrestlers just seem like they had the and track to a certain extent, but
No,
at least track worked out in the afternoon. It seemed like swimmers always there's some god awful morning hours to be
that's
swimming.
right. That's right. It was morning swim and then afternoon swim. So it was twice a day. And then somewhere in between we had to do some lifting as well. So
Right.
yeah, it was intense,
And,
but
what would you say was the most fulfilling part of the that 4 years?
honestly, the whole experience was amazing. I didn't even know what to compare it to, right? I feel like that you just watch movies, and just see like college and sort of like what it was. But it was just like really great experience to one, know the culture, know the language, make really good friends. I met my husband, so that's a highlight.
That's a huge
Ended up
highlight.
exactly, ended up getting married, stayed. So the whole thing, something that I wasn't even expecting it to happen. I was so lost at the beginning. I was like, what is going on? And, really great friends, really good people. It was just an amazing experience. Got to travel a lot, for swim meets, and it was just nice being part of something. And I just wasn't alone. I was always with people and making new friends and just experiencing everything really for the first time on my own
Right.
because I never left home.
Right. And what was your degree in?
International business. So I have a degree in international business and marketing, which, in our business, let's say marketing, I get to use quite a bit now. It's changed a lot from what I've learned, but it's fun. It's
Yeah.
really rewarding.
So did you get into the mortgage business right out of college?
No, not quite. So as soon as I graduated, I got a job in Pittsburgh. So I was still in Cleveland, looking for jobs right away. Um, Applied for a bunch of banks, actually. I was really drawn always to finances because I grew up like that with my parents. My parents own stores and like businesses. So I was always around that. And I just really always liked the finance part of a business, right? So I was like, let's do that. And with international business, I'm like, I speak two languages. I want to see if I work for a corporation and use my Spanish and English and doing something along those lines. So I was applying for different companies, but then PNC Bank here in Pittsburgh, they're the ones who offered me a job. And they were like, yeah, listen, we really like everything you stand for. You're young, you can start this program where essentially they just teach you finances, right? So it was like a full program. You learned at the beginning, it was mainly opening bank accounts, credit cards, loans, things of that nature. And as I got into it, then I was working a little bit more with like financial advisors and then mortgage lenders too. So the great thing about the bank was it was so big and there was so many opportunities there that you could really do, move up right away. So it really didn't take long until I pretty much knew what I was doing. And then it got to a point probably after the year where they were like, listen, you've done really, really well. You can either stay in this position until, forever, or if you want to explore other options, I mean, we welcome that. So that was really impressive that they did that. They promote within. And yeah, I had a really good relationship with the mortgage lender there. And I sort of like, started seeing what he did and everything about mortgage. And it was either that or financial advisor. So I was between those two. And yeah, somehow I just ended up in mortgage right after that.
Was it intimidating to go from doing what you were doing within the bank to because the mortgage business is
Yeah.
not for the faint of heart.
No, it truly isn't. And it was. It was very intimidating. And the biggest thing for me too is that I was so young too that I was like, I'm really disciplined. I really love helping people. And I was like, I learn quick and I have a whole support system. But I was always afraid that people were gonna be like, oh no, you're a kid. Like you don't know what you're doing. How are
Right.
you gonna sell me a mortgage? And back then I didn't even have a house, right? So it was that a little imposter syndrome, if you will, that I was like, oh, am I not good enough and stuff like that. And at the same time, I was like, listen, I'm gonna learn this and I'm gonna, do good and just try to really help people and just open up opportunities. And yeah, it was just that was the nice thing though, is that the background and the experience really helped me to get to where I am right now because I had people guiding me along the way. So I wasn't really alone. I just really had always a good support system and really learned the business in and out. So that was huge.
Right. So it was helping the families that was the one of the major attractions
It
for you.
was, yeah, always like that. So growing up for me, my parents, they worked really hard and it was always nice to see like when we went from like the small apartment that I grew up in to like a house, right? If you will. And at that point I got like my own bedroom and stuff. But coming from, a third world country, that's just not really the thing that people get homes or are able to even have the opportunity. So that was thinking back and being little, I always thought about those things. I was like, listen, why is it? And then when you come to the States, you see like, wow, there is opportunity. People can get a loan to buy a house. In Venezuela, it was either cash or you don't buy kind of thing,
Right.
right? So they don't teach you how to leverage that and leverage money. So that was a big thing for me. And another thing too, as the Hispanic community was growing here in the country, I also saw a huge lack of education. So I was like, this is so important. Like, we gotta spread the word. We gotta teach people how this is possible because, everybody works so hard and they just don't know. Education is like a big portion of what we do now because a lot of people are just intimidating and they just like, no, I don't even want to try it because I don't think it's going to happen without even talking to somebody. So I always had that mentality that I wanted to really help family, just give them the tools and hopefully they make good decision off of it.
Yeah, I mean, it is intimidating, and I think um, it's done on purpose from the people who do what we do. They kind of cloak it in mystery.
I
So if
know
you can educate and show people exactly what they're doing and give them all their options, that they're a lot more appreciative
for
of
sure, for
what you're
sure.
doing for them. So you're with PNC now. You're with as a collab. Who? Because we jump around, we get recruited. What was going on in between PNC and collab?
Yes. So PNC, again, I learned everything. I learned really underwriting and guidelines. So that was huge. And then right after that, my manager at the time, we had an amazing relationship. I was helping him, after he pretty much helped me build up. I was helping him as well with his files and stuff. And we really made sort of like a team. So that really helped out a lot. He was done with PNC and he, approached me. He's like, listen, we make a really good team. We have a great relationship. You're always welcome to come on board. And he was moving at that point to cross country mortgage. So from a big retail to that correspondent that we call in our world. And it wasn't even, I don't even think he asked. I was just like, oh, you're leaving? I'm coming.
Right, right.
Because we
It's
had that great of a relationship,
it's so important. Not everybody can say they know who they work
relationships,
for or with.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, and till this day, I don't work with him anymore, but I'm always super thankful, of the opportunity. Like he took me in when I was 21. I was 21 years old when I got into the business, like not knowing anything. And he took a chance on me. He's like, oh, this guy, like I see the potential. So I'll forever be grateful to him that I'm here, in this position. And that's exactly what it was. So I was in cross country for a couple of years.
Let me
And then
stop you
at
there
that,
because there's an
yeah,
important thing. Like, if someone who doesn't know anything about the business, just briefly describe the difference between a depository institution, direct lender like a bank, and a cross
yeah,
country, which is like a correspondent lender. Because I've done all three also, but a lot of people
yeah.
don't understand the distinction.
Exactly. Yeah. So your depository lending, so in this case, PNC Bank, essentially they have their own set of rules. Obviously, they follow your guidelines from Freddie and Fannie, the big national corporations, but they make their own rules as well. And then they can lend their own money too. So, usually they leverage those assets from the bank and then they turn around and lend that to their clients. Then when you move over to a correspondent, so it's sort of like a midway between like a retail bank and then a broker because they're not really a bank. So they don't handle checking or savings accounts or anything like that, but they do lend that money to clients strictly for mortgages. And then, in terms they have an investor on the back end giving them that money to lend it out. So
Yeah, and so like as I describe it to clients, the depository institution, because I worked for a bank also at one time, it's like they do everything from the application to the lending the money and oftentimes servicing it.
that's
Correspondent
right.
does everything
Yep,
up to servicing the loan. And the
exactly.
advantage of the correspondent is it's like almost like a broker where you can go shop rates. But
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Exactly. You had a few options for that.
yeah. And then
Yep.
as I explain it also is with the bank and the correspondent, and I was correspondent more than well, I was 14 years a correspondent lender.
Oh, wow.
Uh the all those companies have overhead. There's the marketing
Yes.
department, there's the legal department, there's the processing, there's the underwriting,
A
and they
lot.
have to get paid those departments. So how
That
do
is
they get
correct.
paid? It's an interest rate. So usually,
Correct.
even though they have the higher rates because they have to cover all those departments, a lot of people, especially when I was doing it, is like the advantage is the control of the process. Being able
Right.
to walk across the street
Exactly.
or
Yep.
across the hall and say, "Hey, underwriter A, B, C, D."
Exactly.
So
Yep.
when
Yep.
when your boss went to cross country, I'm going to guess from my banking experiences, and rightfully and understandably, banks have to be a little bit more conservative.
Yeah.
So I know my reason was I was tired of saying no to my friends who didn't have cookie cutter loans. What
Right.
was
Right.
what
Right.
was what was his and your reason? Was it
Yep.
somewhat similar?
Right on. So for him, it was mainly the fact that he really, he has a family, he has four kids, and he really wanted to make them a priority, right? So for with banks, you do have that banking hour. It's a little bit more strict. When you go to a correspondent, you can really run your own show, right? So he had like a P&L model, brought me over. So we formed like a little team. So we still were doing all these great loans, but at the same time, it was like a little hub. So it was a lot more flexibility for him and his family. He could like travel, but still be involved. So it was a huge thing for him. For me, it was the same. I was like, you know what? I like the flexibility. And I also want that next step because at one point, I want to do like my own thing, right? And maybe have my own team. And we knew that the day will come where we will go our separate ways. But, we
Right.
worked together for 6, 7 years. So, it happened at that point, but you're never like prepared for it, right?
Right.
So, but I
Right.
was like, yeah, I want to go and have my own team. And I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to do that at the bank. I had to really go to a correspondent, and I didn't really know about the broker world then yet.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, this just makes sense, for us for the move. Like we got the great experience. Let's apply that towards the correspondent side. And like you said, really open up that pool and help more people that way because loans are different nowadays, very
Yeah,
different.
yeah, absolutely. And correspondents do have more loan options. They're a little bit more
Yep,
flexible with
it was.
yeah, with
Yeah.
FICO credit scores.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly. And that's what I was when I got to the correspondence side. I was like, this is Disneyland for loans,
right,
compared to what I was used to, because it was either, the bank is like, we have A, B, and C, that's it, or not even that, maybe like A or
right,
D.
right,
So here, I mean, all the options was mind blowing,
right. And
So
so, yeah, so some examples for people like on a correspond like a cross country or a like I would say that even the big dog the fintechs like a
yeah,
Rocket, those are
Rocket,
correspondent
yeah,
and
exactly. Yep.
yeah, and they
Those
are
are
a
your
nice
correspondent
mix
models.
of the best of both worlds. So you're killing it with cross country. Did you have a team cross country?
No, I didn't then. No. So
Okay.
that's what it was. So I was still part of his team. We had everything was going really well. And then yeah, everything still kept going well. But again, I was just like, I was feeling a little bit stuck. I was just like, I make the move. I feel great. I have a lot of options, but there's something that I'm missing, right? I was just like, what is that I'm missing? I'm having my great clients, my referral partners, they stuck with me throughout the move. Um, and I was just like, there's something missing. And I was like, you know what? I just really have that mentality that even though it was still more flexible than the bank, I just didn't have like the running your own business mentality. I was still doing loans, right? And helping people that way. But I was like, I still want to run it as a business and have that opportunity to really like help more people that way and think of it as a whole like franchise or brand rather than just working for somebody. So that's where through one of our connections, that's how I met Megan. So
Yeah,
that's
so
a
that's
little
where, yeah. Well, did you find
exactly.
Megan or Megan find you or you found each other?
I think we found each other at the same time, if you will. Yes.
Uh-huh.
So it was sort of like the same contact that we met. I opened up to her. She's running like a real estate company. And I was like, listen, I work with a lot of your agents. She was running like a bunch of agents and we have a great relationship, but I want to really give them more. And I know there is more stuff out there, more options, because I was also hearing from other clients. I was like, listen, I have a broker that is offering me this and that. And I was like, wait, really? Those loans? What? I was like, how is that? So that like really opened up my mind. I was like, there's a lot more. There's a lot of more stuff out there. And yeah, through like a mutual connection, I talked to Megan and then um that's how Colab came to be. But at the beginning, she was really helping me more of like the franchise, right? Because that's what I told her. I was like, listen, I want to open my own thing and just have my team and really do that. And throughout all the conversations, it just really made sense for me to just give it a try and join the brand first. And I was like, you know what? That's actually a great idea because like I don't know the broker channel, right? So I know that I can do it, but
Right.
it's different. So let me see what I'm getting into first and really get my feet wet. And then from there, we'll figure something out. Um, but that was the beginning
Well, she
of
number one,
this.
she's a very very convincing woman,
Oh,
and
she's
and
amazing
so
though.
sharp that
Yes, it's unbelievable.
yeah, and so number one, you don't want to say no to her, but
Right.
you're excited to be in the trenches with her, be fighting the same fight
Exactly.
with her.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
So you did the analysis and you said, well, maybe down the road franchise, but right now, I just think I want to learn the brokers because it is a total different animal. Just,
Whole different
having
animal.
to just find all the different niches because there's almost nothing you can't do as a broker. And then
Literally.
yeah, and then all the different guidelines, right?
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, and you had a P&L model, right, with the
Right. Yep.
correspondent. So that side of it, but you really needed. So it sounds like you're very pragmatic about, all right, well, the next step is just learn the business. So I want to know
Exactly.
what was the first loan that you did with CoLab that you said, oh my God, I'm so happy I'm a broker because I never could have done this correspondent or with a bank.
I know. So
Scenario. What was
that
that
there, and
scenario?
I'll never forget it because it was my first one that I was really, it opened up my eyes to, like you said, in our broker channel, there's honestly like nothing that we cannot do. I mean, there's so many things that I didn't even know. I thought I was at Disneyland, or the
Again,
correspondent. I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, this is it. It doesn't get better than this." And then I see the broker channel. I was like, "What? No!" But that loan, I still remember. Young couple, been in the country for the longest time, but they don't have their immigration status is it's like pending, right? So it's a little bit in limbo. They don't have a social security number per se. They have what we call an ITIN number, which is an individual tax identification number. So that's what they give. The government gives that to them so they can file their taxes and, pay their taxes, report their income and all of that, but they don't have a social. So as soon as I had that first interview with them, I was like, I didn't even talk about that until the end because I didn't know. And they were like, they've been working for like 10 years, solid income, they had their assets, they have been saving the money, they had their credit. I was like, this is amazing. I mean, yes, like we can get this done in a week. And then at the end they were like, well, but here's the issue, like we don't really have a social. I was like, what do you mean you don't have a social? And they were like, no, this is how, we're through the immigration process. We're here fine. Like we have our paperwork, like we
Right.
work, we have a business, but we don't have that finalized. And I was like, well, that I don't think I can do that then. But I was like, hold up, I don't say no. Let me figure this out because I have a whole team of experts, been doing it a little bit longer in the broker channel and a whole support system. Let me find out. And then that's where I found out that, those loans exist. They're ITIN loans. And we were able to make it happen. So they got into their home in 30 days. We closed just like a regular home. It was just a specific lender that we needed to put that loan with. And that was the beginning of, an amazing journey with those group of people who are on the same boat. Because that's the other thing. Once one of them do something like that,
Word of mouth.
all of them come. Exactly. Because now they know that it's not impossible. And just seeing that, like when you talk to somebody, and I know that you've experienced this too, VA, but like when you see, in the eyes and you're like, wow, this is possible, it doesn't get better than that. When you
The
tell
American
them,
dream. Yeah, when people say, "What do you
exactly.
do?" I say, "I
Yep.
facilitate dreams," and they go, "What does that mean?" And I'll say,
Yeah.
"Well, the American dream is home ownership."
Right.
So, you stepped into a situation where you're opening up all these dreams for people, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Yep.
had you not been the broker, like all of a sudden you have a whole niche that you could probably spend your whole day doing I-10
Exactly.
loans, right?
Exactly. That is correct. That is correct.
And so what about what the difference between the correspondent and the broker channel, like financially, maybe more risky but more reward, or was it not really a big risk or what?
No, no, for sure. The reward is like huge, right? Because I couldn't do that in the correspondent nor at the bank. Like this type of loans really didn't exist. I'm not sure about now, but they didn't really exist when I was there.
Right.
Or any like non-traditional lending. So that was sort of like the path that I really took in the broker channel. I was like, I can do your traditional, conventional FHA. That's fine. That's what I've been doing for all these years. But I sort of, started diving into what we call the non-QM world, right? Like your non-traditional loans. There are just a different way to look at income, the different way to qualify clients. It's not like we're still not going through a qualification process, if you will,
Right.
right? They're still getting better. You're still showing your income. You're still showing that you can pay back the loan.
The
It's just in
ability
a
to
different
repay.
way.
The ability
Exactly.
to
That's all it
repay.
is. Yep. That doesn't change.
That no,
That's
not not at all. And I just think it helps so much because it increases the velocity of loan activity. And I think that's why
it
brokers are
does.
kind of taking over market share because we're an
Exactly.
entrepreneurial society now. And if you're a smart
Right.
entrepreneur, you're not reporting all your income. You
Exactly.
lower income.
Exactly.
And the only reason it hurts you is when you're trying to buy a house. So there has to be
Exactly.
these kind of alternatives. So
Yeah.
there must have been a huge smile on your face going, "Oh my goodness, I'm so
It
happy."
was. It was huge, especially like after the pandemic too. I mean, nobody budgeted for a pandemic, right? It
Right,
happened and the country were in shock. So a lot of self-employed people really took a hit. It was huge. And they really wanted to keep their staff and try to do the best they could. So, like you said, to your point, those taxes might not show the best. Cash flow was there, but maybe the expenses went up because they wanted to keep their staff.
right.
But the way that we look at things is differently, where we can still make that possible and help them out. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you're in the
definitely eye-opening.
yeah. So you're in the Pittsburgh area. What are
Yeah,
you? What are like? What's one of the major questions you're getting from prospective homeowners about the market? Like,
yeah. No, right now, obviously, the biggest environment that we're in is interest rates, right? Interest rates are high. Like, can I still buy? Honestly, like I always tell my clients, my mentality is never time the market because you cannot time the market, right? I always tell them when you're ready and when you're able to purchase a home, that's the perfect time for you. That is timing your own market. And looking at homes and just making sure that what you're looking for fits within your budget, right? So I'm very conscious of that and like making sure that we're budget oriented. But yeah, the biggest question right now is obviously like, is it a good time to buy? Is it not? It's gonna be different, like the I'm not gonna tell people here like, oh, it's a great time to buy because it all depends on your situation, right? Are
right?
you moving? Are you getting a new job? Do you get married? Are you downsizing? I mean, it's so many questions.
Yeah.
So I always tell people that.
Yeah, which makes it like a non-boring job because every day is different, every loan is
Exactly.
different, every
Every loan is different.
and trying
Yep.
to, because my first foray as a broker went horribly because we were just a new brokerage and
Hmm.
our investors, the people, the lenders we were going to, we didn't have a rep, so they weren't giving us any love. So I had a horrible experience. And to
Yeah.
Andre and Megan's credit, they didn't they weren't rushing me into anything. They just, Andre would just check in with me. I had already known Andre, but it was Megan, the force that is Megan, is like, I got to work for this woman. Now,
Yeah.
because of some different situations with them, it took over a year and a half. But
Wow.
it just was all right. I love the fact that I don't have to say no.
Yeah.
And like, even if I have to say no, it's a no for now. Right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Or like no to this program, but we can pivot and do it this way, kind of thing, So
Yeah. So you
that's like
haven't
the beauty of it.
Yeah, you didn't have because a lot of times people make a leap and they have some like, I thought the grass was greener and it wasn't greener, but you're feeling like the grass is greener.
It is for
Yeah.
sure. I have no regrets. And honestly, like I feel like you probably feel the same way. I did it the right way. A lot of people think like they tell me like, oh my gosh, do you think that you would have done it sooner? And I was like, I don't think so. I think that it really, I was super happy at the bank. I learned a lot, super
Mhm.
thankful. I really learned the ins and outs of mortgages and how you do them and everything that goes behind it. Then I went to cross country and I learned the business side. And I was like, okay, this is how you run money and how you leverage a P&L and how you
Right.
have employees and how you hire people, things that I didn't know that before. Then when I came to CoLab, I combined the two and I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
So
So if
it
somebody,
really happened the way that I was supposed to. I always say
right.
that.
So if somebody, because I think sometimes if you're on the correspondent side and you have your own P&L, you feel like you're running your own business, but you touched on it earlier. You felt like there was something else, like
Correct.
um to be had, and you weren't quite ready for the franchise, and maybe down the road you are gonna
Right, right,
gonna be able to do that. Me personally, I don't want to manage anybody. I just
right.
like I I like the fact that the variables of all the different types of loan programs and things like help people get a house, and helping loan officers like yourself say, hey,
Yep,
maybe I can do this. They may be intimidated, and Megan has the franchising going now,
yeah,
creating opportunities. And that's also the altruistic nature of, hey, I can't have everybody, but I can help as many people as I come in contact with. So
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. Yep, right
that's
on.
actually, yeah, that's why I wanted to talk to you, because you're doing well on the correspondence side, and then you come in like the 800-pound gorilla, like I'm number one loan officer, bitches.
Let's do
No,
this.
no. Now I don't know if you hear this a lot, but and it's totally meant to be a compliment. But you have like the tone and the tenor of your voice is like grandmother, grandfatherly. Where like do people ever tell you that? Like,
Every single day. And you know what? I appreciate that because I love that feedback. I was like, I want people when they pick up that phone call and they have that initial conversation with me, I just want them to be like, wow, this is possible,
right,
And it's tough. So for me, like, I don't meet a lot of my clients face to face. And
yeah,
as you can see me here, I'm super excited. I always smile. I always smile. I don't know if I was
right,
taught that as a kid. But I was like, no matter what you're going through, give somebody a smile. It could change their day.
yeah,
So that's always my mentality. And I'm like, okay, how can I make people know that I'm smiling through the phone?
yeah. You
So
can
that's
hear it.
always my goal.
Yeah, you can hear it when you talk, even if you
Exactly.
can't say it.
Yep.
We can
I
hear the
want them
smile.
to.
But yeah, like when we do our company meetings, I'm like, oh, his customers, because he's just like so calming. Like I'm self-aware enough to know that I make a stressful transaction less stressful, but my voice is can be a bit much for people. So I will own that. Yours is just, I was just so tranquilo. There, there
Yes,
there was a point where
yes.
I was fluent in Spanish, and my 2025 goal is to get back to
There
that,
you go. Let's
because
get it to it. We
number
can
one,
do it.
living in Florida, it's embarrassing. I can't
You
get the
have to.
words.
It's like a
So
given.
I got my
Exactly.
Rosetta Stone, and I'm gonna get fluent again. I can understand
Love it.
better than I can speak, but I'm gonna. So all right, the last thing I want to do is
Good.
like three questions, two pretty
Yes.
simple ones, but three
Let's
questions
do
as if
it.
I'm a borrower. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
Semi role play. So Mauricio, I am 25 years old. I'm thinking about buying a house, but I don't have 20% to put down. Can you help me?
Absolutely, BA. That's a myth that we're working hard on that because that's a great question. A lot of our clients, and mainly, your first-time home buyers, they always think that they have to put 20% down payment. That's not the case anymore. So we're 2025, different world. We have down payment assistance programs where they don't even have to bring anything for down payment, and that's covered. They just have to cover their closing costs. They can get into a home with as little as 3% down payment, depending on their credit. Their first-time home buyers, FHA loans, 3.5. So that 20% down, I want to say probably like 90% of my clients don't put 20% down.
Right.
Yeah,
And as long as they can afford the payment,
exactly. That's all you're getting qualified on. Just making sure that you can swing that monthly payment.
right. Okay,
Yeah,
Mr. Mauricio, real estate mortgage, master of time, space, and dimension. My credit score is in 700. Can I still get a house?
absolutely. That's another myth. We can go down. That's another thing that I didn't know personally, before I came to the broker channel. So I was capped at 640. I couldn't even touch anything below 640. I was like, you gotta work with a credit company to get that back up. It was just not a thing. Then I
Right.
come over to the broker channel. I'm helping people that, they're in the 580s. And I was like, wait, what? I can do this? And it opens up a whole new opportunities because credit is very different for a lot of people. A lot of the times it's not even their fault. And we used to have a lot of medical issues with medical debt. That's a big portion that unfortunately it tanks your credit. Guidelines changed, luckily, where now that's not getting reported, but for a lot of people in the past, things like that. It wasn't necessarily that they didn't know how to manage money. It's just they had unfortunate things in their lives that shouldn't really be, a negative factor for them to get a home.
Yeah,
So,
so you already that's a sub myth because like you say, well, we do loans for people that have a 580 credit score, and people automatically think, well, they shouldn't be in a house. Well, there's so
right,
many extenuating circumstances, and to the credit of
thousand
the
percent.
wholesale lenders, they're like, no, there's people who really uh, have the ability to repay. They've had some unfortunate things, and if they can show and they're put through their paces, without a
Exactly.
doubt, um, that
Yep. Yep.
they have the ability to own a home. And for like again, and this is why I love that you were able to discover the ITN world.
Yeah.
ITN world is the dream is to home ownership, but the best way to create generational wealth is that home ownership, in my
Right on.
opinion.
I
And
agree.
so this whole population that comes in contact with Mauricio, all of a sudden now they're able to start creating generational wealth through home ownership. So the last
Exactly.
one,
Yep.
okay. So the third one is more of a. I want to go back and forth and get your opinion because this is what I'm getting a lot, and you probably are getting a lot too. Move up buyers. Oh man,
Mhm.
I love this house. I would love to move up, but man, I love my 3% interest rate or my 3.5% interest rate. What do you say
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah. I did it. I just moved last year. I went from a 2 to a 7. I was like, what am I doing? What is
So
this?
explain that process. This,
Yes. So honestly, it really came down to, for us, right? It really came down to the lifestyle that we wanted. So it was at that point where we really had everything in our house. We were really comfortable, but we knew that it was time to upgrade, right? And just get something a little bit bigger. We both have big families, and our families don't live here. So we always knew that, hey, we needed a little bit of room to accommodate people, have people over, and just really welcome our families. And it just, like I said, it wasn't about timing the market. The market was not a great time. And we were like, how are we going to lose that 2% to go up? But the beauty and what really helped was that we were also sitting in a lot of equity, right? Because we came out of, the COVID area where we were able to lock in that super low interest rate. But at the same time, home values really appreciated. And it was sort of like it all came down to the numbers. So long it makes sense monthly, and so long it makes sense with the equity that we had, it was just like, yeah, we can do it. And the biggest thing is that being in this world, and I also tell my clients too, I'm super open and honest. Nobody keeps a mortgage for 30 years. That's not a thing. People refinance every 3 years, 5 years. Your life changes so much that you cannot have that mentality that you're like, oh, I'm gonna be stuck for 30 years with this. That's not a thing.
yeah,
So
that's our
I
grandparents and
always,
our grandparents and great grandparents. That was their
yep,
mortgage, but we're much
exactly.
more mobile type. No one works for the same company for 30 years. No one stays in the
Exactly
same house for
right.
30 years, and
Nope.
definitely not in the same mortgage because you stay in the same house, but you're doing things. You're putting additions on. People have
Exactly.
kids, open up
Yep.
529s, and
Exactly. Yep. You
so
got
yours was
college, renovations, so many things. You're right.
yeah. So you were talking about the equity, and I also think people don't understand how much equity they have in the house. Are you saying that you put just a little more down to keep the payment reasonable because you were
Yeah,
jumping from a two
exactly.
to a seven?
Yep, that's exactly what we did. We were in a place where we really didn't need to pocket that equity, right? So we were just like, let's transfer it to the new home so that we can make sure that our loan amount is lower, and be comfortable with that monthly payment. And that's exactly what we did. We really took everything that we gained, and it was just a transfer pretty much. And then we
Right.
just left our loan, and that's what it was, our monthly payment pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah, on the purchase side, like because I get kind of nerdy about it, and I say to myself, well, someone is purchasing a six-figure asset that on average is going to appreciate 6% every year.
Right,
And if you're
right.
conservative, 4% every year. So
Exactly. Yep.
that appreciation is going to be five figures minimum. The
Right.
difference
Right.
between a monthly payment at 2.5% and 7%, that might be three figures, four figures tops. So
Right. Right.
that appreciation on that six-figure asset you're purchasing is always going to outpace it. And then what I
Yep.
did, and I'm going to do a video on this. I just played with the numbers and said, all right, where at a certain price point with a certain interest rate, what must happen? And for me, because I have older clients, because I'm older than you, you're just a young baby in the woods. A lot of people have financial planners. Now, a myth about
Yep.
that is you don't have to be 55 years old to have a financial planner. You can get one in your
Right on.
20s, and you don't have to be
Correct.
making a ton of money. You could be putting away $50 a month. So, financial
Exactly.
planners, like getting back to where you started, I think they're the most important profession moving forward for anybody that's under 65. So, if you have
Agree.
a financial planner and he has the right investment vehicle that security of principal, return on investment,
Yep.
tax advantage,
Right.
liquid,
Right.
then there's a certain amount of money that you can gift that person that will make up the difference of that 2% to 7%. It's like what banks do every day. There's arbitrage. You create.
Yeah.
So when I was playing with the numbers, and I think it was like a $500,000 house. It was like a 2 percentage points. If you can get close to 2%, if it's like less than 2.5% of where you are right now in interest rate, and your financial planner can and invest money for you in a smart investment vehicle,
Right. Right.
you can just offset that whole difference. Yours is a very simple way. What I was just talking about is very complicated, but I just don't want people to not go after their dreams like you and Danny did, saying we
Exactly.
want to. This is our dream house. This is our move up house. It's not no. It's how do we get to yes.
Exactly. Yep.
So
Right on.
I
Right
did
on.
not talk to you about that, and I'm so glad you gave that answer because that's the
Yes.
one I get all the time is I don't want to lose that 3.5%, and
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
you're going to be buying a six-figure asset, and it's going to come back to you as long as the payment's comfortable. Don't let that stop you.
Don't let that stop you. Exactly right. This is what homeownership is. It just keeps going up, keeps growing.
So okay, so we'll just end on like the 5 year plan. Do you think it'll be franchise, or for right now you're just really content doing the broker thing? Or if you don't want to say, that's fine too.
Yeah. No, no, I love to share that because I always ask myself every day. I was like, what's next, right? How do we keep growing? And honestly, right now, I'm in an amazing place with the team. Everything that I'm doing is just phenomenal. So I don't see in like we say the grind, right? I love helping people every day. I love talking to potential homeowners every day. So I want to keep that going for a while. The plan is for sure in a few years, probably five, then maybe at that point, my goal is also give somebody an opportunity that I was given when I was entering the industry, right? So at one point, I want to have that junior loan officer, brand new out of college, that I can just sort of like, teach them and just be like, here's how you do it. So I want to get to that point, just give somebody the same opportunity that I had. And to do that, I want to have like sort of like the flow going and have a team so that I can have a little bit more support that way. So yeah, I think that's gonna be the next step.
Yeah,
And
because
go from there.
you don't want to be a just like at a certain point you want to be able to delegate. So you
Exactly,
want this
exactly. Yep.
team to be able to duplicate yourself.
Exactly. And go and take on the world.
Right, right.
Yep.
Well, a tip
That's the plan.
a tip of the cap. I really appreciate your time. I know you're killing it, and I definitely steal from you some of your ideas. You're never too old to learn.
No, never.
I love watching your growth. You and Tot, because Tot was just a processor, and just to see you guys killing it's awesome. And I think the corporate culture is like everybody wants to see everybody succeed. So
Yeah, right on, right on.
it's been
Yep.
awesome watching your journey. And I
Appreciate
know
it.
sometimes Danny probably comes home and says that Brian Allen's a pain in my ass, but
No, never. You're
I
safe. I have
love that
not heard
dude.
that.
I love that dude because he's just like my guardian angel watching over me. And I know why you love the dude. So give him some
Exactly.
love for me too.
I sure will. I sure will. No, thank you so much. This was so nice. Thank you for including me and let me,
Yeah,
share a little bit of my experience. And this is what it's all about, just sharing with people because hopefully this conversation, somebody will see it and be like, wow, there's so many opportunities. Like this is possible. Or, for another loan officer, just be like, wow, these guys, can do different things. So that's what we're
yeah.
all about.
You're gonna conquer the ITN world. I'm telling you right
Let's
now.
do it.
All right, all
We're
the
working
best,
towards
man.
it.